أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We intend to continue with the 19th word. Last week we discussed first droplet and second droplet. Not much of second droplet actually. We also touch upon the third droplet. But I guess we can start from the second droplet, inshallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We are reading from the 19th word on page 244, the second droplet. Again, continuation of the 19th word on page 244. So I'm going to start with the verse. I could not praise Muhammad with my words. I could not praise Muhammad with my words. Rather, my words were made praiseworthy by Muhammad. Rather, my words were made praiseworthy by Muhammad. Second droplet on page 244. Just as that luminous proof of divine unity is affirmed by the unanimity and consensus of those two wings, so do hundreds of indications in the revealed scriptures, the Torah and Bible, and the thousands of signs that appeared before the beginning of his mission, and the well-known news given by the voices from the unseen, and the unanimous testimony of the soothsayers, the indications of the thousands of his miracles, like the splitting of the moon, the indications of the thousands of his miracles, like the splitting of the moon and the justice of the Sharia, all confirm and corroborate him. There is a footnote in his Risale Hamidiyeh. Hussein Jisri extracted 114 indications from those scriptures. If this many have remained after the texts have become corrupted, there were surely many explicit mentions before. All right, continuing on. So too, in his person, his laudable morals, which were at the summit of perfection, and in his duties, his complete confidence and elevated qualities, which were of the highest excellence, and his extraordinary fear of God, worship, seriousness, and fortitude, which demonstrated the strength of his belief and his total certainty and his complete steadfastness. These all show as clearly as the sun how utterly faithful he was to this cause. I'm gonna reread this second droplet again. going over statement by statement. So this 19th word is about the messengership of Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him. And I'm still reflecting on that verse that was read earlier. And I feel the need of rereading it again.
Oh, yeah, just a correction for the recording.
Yes.
It was a verse, but it's not a verse, it's just a saying of the author.
Oh.
Sorry for the confusion, like it was my mistake, calling it verse. It's just a saying of the author. Sorry for that.
No, thank you. Okay. Well, even if it's a saying from the author, it's interesting to ponder over it again. So he's starting off by saying, I could not praise Muhammad with my words. Rather, my words were made praiseworthy by Muhammad. Presenting something with two aspects where, so like Muhammad being a figure that looks like the author must have benefited a lot from. So that's why he's saying that the words were made praiseworthy by him. And I could not praise Muhammad with my words. So definitely that must have an impact on the author. So he's helping us by these, going over these droplets. So just as that luminous proof of divine unity is affirmed by the unanimity and consensus of those two wings. So I'm wondering what those two wings are. Maybe this referred to something we read last week. Does anybody want to share it?
It is referred in the first droplet. He says, for he declares and claims at the very end, there is no God but God. And all on left and right, there is those luminous reciters of God's names lined up in the past and future. So he's referring to this part, I assume.
Okay.
Reciters of God's name lined up in the past and the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. So there's no God but God. So that seems like a message, right? And so it's like a universal message that the author is referring to when he says that a lot of, there were complete agreement among people of all time thus far with this, the meaning of the statement, there's no God but God. Okay, so do hundreds of indications in the revealed scriptures like the Torah and the Bible and the thousands of signs that appeared before the beginning of his mission. Okay, so now there are some proofs that are given, again, corroborating the message that there's no God but God. So that's also given in the known scriptures that we know, the Torah and the Bible. And then we can also see it from the thousands of signs that appeared before the beginning of his mission. So I assume the thousands of signs would refer to, the whatever message that was presented in the Torah and the Bible. Obviously it speaks to man, their position in the universe. So these are also some signs. And the well-known news given by the voices from the unseen. The well-known news given by the voices from the unseen. The universe and including man's existence definitely is pointing to something that's not to be found in this universe or not of the nature of this universe. So that's what the unseen is referring to. And the unanimous testimony of the soothsayers. Unanimous testimony of the soothsayers. What are Who are soothsayers? If not, I'll just look up. If anybody knows what soothsayers are, that would be helpful.
Like magicians, just make up things.
Okay. Unanimous testimony of the soothsayers. Even magicians testified to the message. Okay, well, we can visit this part. But anyways, let's move on. The indications of the thousands of his miracle, like the splitting of the moon. So these kinds of miracles that are, that have been passed down to us throughout history. One of the miracles like that. I don't know if it happened physically or not. That's not my concern, but definitely this must mean something. And the justice of Sharia all confirm and corroborate him. So justice of Sharia, understand the way the universe is set up, the order of the universe, the creator's will. If you look into how the universe is set up, it should, everything works out perfect in harmony with the message that the messenger brings. Me, the being, the individual who's in need to make sense of things and the way universe works. So it looks like all three of us, me, the universe, and the message, the divine speech, they all work together in harmony. So, okay. Does anybody want to say something by now?
Sorry, I have a correction on the soothsayers. I checked the meaning.
Okay.
You can check it also if you want. It means somebody who can predict the future. That's what the dictionary says.
Right. The fortune tellers?
Something like that.
Okay. I had a hunch about it, but I wasn't so sure. Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, but that's unanimous testimony of the soothsayers. Alrighty, I'll just leave it on the side for now with a question mark. Okay, so moving on. So too, in his person, okay, so now we're talking about the characteristics, the persona of Muhammad, the messenger. So too in his person, his laudable morals, which were at the summit of perfection. And in his duties, his complete confidence and elevated qualities. So, you know how they say, you can know about somebody if they walk the walk and talk the talk. So it looks like this person who's presenting the message has really, impeccable personality, as in morals, and because they appear very confident in their existence, and his complete confidence and elevated qualities. I can even understand from this as in uncorrupted human nature, which were of the highest excellence, and his extraordinary fear of God, as in really living in the presence of God, his extraordinary consciousness of God, worship, seriousness, and fortitude, which demonstrated the strength of his belief, and his total certainty and his complete steadfastness. These all show as clearly as the sun how utterly faithful he was to his cause. So definitely, if somebody's presenting the message, you can get a gut feeling based on the way they're presenting, and that, they seem serious, they seem confident, and I guess if somebody's appearing as such for a long time, then definitely this is some kind of serious message. It's just not like a one-time event, where people could just pretend, wear a mask, and, here, this is what I'm presenting. Definitely not. Yeah, so this is what my really quick takeaways while thinking out loud, reading the second droplet. Yeah, does anybody have any questions? Want to go over something within the second droplet? Okay, so I'll give it. Go ahead.
Soothsayers. So I'm thinking about why is he bringing soothsayers as a evidence? The way I see this, certainly he is talking about historical facts in here, or whatever we learn from history. And there are also some other explanations in which before Wahi, soothsayers were really telling something or giving some sort of guidance to people, half true, half lies. But after Wahi, the way that it is being told us in the books, they say that those soothsayers were not able to find their jinns, let me put it this way.
Unseen.
So that they were not able to give news from the unseen anymore. But my understanding is this is sort of metaphorical. So this is personal take out of this whole business. So the soothsayers were like the scientists of the day, if you like. So they were having, they had some sort of a knowledge, more than the rest of the people. So much so that they can mix truth and falsehood together. So let's say they know 5 units of knowledge, but they add 10 units of lies into that. And since you are an illiterate person, let's say, they can sell truth with falsehood to you, and you will buy it. So those people were more knowledgeable than average people. But this is why what they say, if they were really agreeing upon something, this means something because they have some sort of a knowledge, at least some more than the rest of the people. But when it comes to the case was being described in the books, Nursi is also describing that those soothsayers were not able to come up with news from future, predictions from future after Wahi. But why? So because Wahi is now coming up with a guidance which makes it possible for people to distinguish truth from falsehood. So if they were to make any prediction about future or things like that, people would now say that where are you coming from? Where does this knowledge coming from? Because now they have a solid ground of the knower of the unseen as the creator. And now his speech is out there, and this other person is speaking out of his own will or own head, then people would have the courage to start questioning what they provide as some guesses from the future. So this is what I understand as after Wahi, yes, the news of the soothsayers were cut off, or their jinns were cut off, because in this case the jinn is, to my understanding, signifying those false ideas that they were mixing with truth. But since now Wahi comes, it shows the right and the wrong, so distinguishes the two. So this is why those news were cut off. So in the overall, just to summarize, I am taking this as a metaphorical saying when it says the news are cut off for the soothsayers. And also, the reason that Nursi is taking the unanimity of soothsayers as a evidence, because those were the people that had some sort of a knowledge, more than average people, which were mostly illiterate people. Yet, so it is unlikely that they will agree upon a lie, but it is likely that they are going to, much more likely that they are going to, if they agree upon something, then it's more likely that it's going to be true. So I guess this is where this might be pointing to.
Yeah, my questions. So I understood nothing from this paragraph. That's just Let me just say that like right from the beginning. I have no idea what he's trying to say here. And my question is, at the very beginning, he says that just as that, whatever that is, or whatever, whoever that is, just as that, luminous proof of divine unity. That's how he starts his statement, and then continues about the whatever, Sutsis, Bible, Torah, and all that sort of stuff. And then, once he completes that, he continues saying that, so too in his person. So it seems like there are two things in this paragraph. Like, whatever that is, like, he refers to something just the same way in his person, he is also such and such. So I guess, like, my first question, like, is, what is that referring to? Like, when he says, just as that luminous proof of divine unity, what is that statement referring to?
I guess it refers to the sentence coming, luminous proof of divine unity is affirmed by the unanimity of consensus of those two wings. Just like it's affirmed by those two wings, it's also affirmed by hundreds of indications in revealed scriptures and so on. I just checked the original. It says, nasıl ki iki cenahın icma ve tefattürüyle teyit ediliyor.
What is being testimonied, like, or like what's being verified? Because it says that O Nurani Burhani Tevhid, that's what he starts with. Like there is O, which is like that. So what is that refers to? Whatever that is being testified by two wings of the unanimity of the two wings.
No, the way I understand it says, just like proof of divine unity is affirmed by those two wings, that refers to the whole sentence, luminous proof of divine unity is affirmed. Just like it is affirmed, look at the Turkish, O Nurani Burhani Tevhid, nasıl ki affirmed by two wings, it's also affirmed by what is coming next.
At the very beginning, he was talking about three proofs. One was scripture, the other one was universe, and the third one is the messenger himself. And he started talking about the messenger, which is the second proof.
Yes, and here in the entire Droplet, he's trying to affirm the messengerhood of the Muhammad.
Yes.
And it is affirmed by these two wings in the first Droplet. Now, he says, just like it is affirmed by the two wings, it's also affirmed by hundreds of indications in the revealed scriptures.
So I missed it. What is the two wings referring to again?
Reciters of God's name in past and future.
Previous prophets before him and the saints coming after him.
And here in this sentence, the way I understand, is just like messengership of Muhammad is affirmed by those two wings.
So that refers to the messengership of the prophet.
No, that refers to the proof of divine unity is being affirmed by these two wings.
Like, forget about the luminous proof of divine unity, because that's just an adjective that describes that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's just an adjective, forget about it. So like just think of it this way, just as that is affirmed by unanimity of the consensus of those two wings. And the luminous proof of divine unity is just an adjective that is describing the quality of that.
That's not the way I look at it, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I said that,
no,
and then I give the sentence.
If you look at the original language, that's not what he's talking about.
That's the reason I'm saying that. I look at the original language and this is what I understand.
And the other thing is, like, there must be two different things that he talks about in this paragraph, because in a way he makes it or addition or a comparison. Just the same as like the same way how this happens, so too this and this like follows this in a way. That is the logic of the structure here, as far as I can understand the paragraph. So there must be something, and just in the same way, there is something else follows it. So if in the first part, if it refers to the prophet himself, then why does it start with the second sentence, like second part? Why does it start with so too in his person? Because he already talked about his person.
No. So for the second part, so it is like then there are external evidences and internal evidences to his person. Internal evidences meaning in terms of his character. But external proofs were like the soothsayers and the Torah, and so these are pointing to the same thing. One is that are external to him, and the other is internal to him. Because
so in both cases, this paragraph refers to the person of the Prophet Muhammad.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question too. Like, understand. You come with puzzles, or he is not agreeing with, I guess, like at least with my question, or this was answered.
No, there is nothing that I disagree with the question. I'm just, I guess the matter of language doesn't matter much.
If you want to understand each other, like matters a lot actually.
The overall concept that you providing is good enough for me. So I don't mind, we treat the one sentence different way or that. Because at the end, what the point you reach is something I agree. But anyway, you have the question. Going back to your original question, what he's talking about here. That was the original question, right?
That was a comment that I had no idea what he's talking about.
So we need some help to understand why he's talking about indications in Torah, Bible, thousands of signs at the beginning of his mission, and so on. So in the first reading, let me explain what I understand, and then we can discuss. I will just give a initial understanding without going into any interpretation. Just in the first droplet, he gives some, let's say, reasons as a proof, as an affirmation of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam being a proof of divine unity. So at the very beginning, he was talking about, as Yusuf said, three proof of divine unity. One was prophet, and then we started in the first droplet how prophethood was affirmed by past and future prophets and so on. Now he says, just like it is affirmed by those two wings, it was also affirmed by some indications in previous scriptures. There are many studies, I assume, trying to find the proof in previous scriptures, in Torah and Bible, referring to a prophet to come. I guess he is here referring to these indications. And then also there are some historical narrations saying that before he started as a prophet, or before even he was born, there were some indications like voices from unseen, and also unanimous testimony of the soothsayers. There were some soothsayers saying that he will come, he will come. I guess here he's referring to these thousands of signs that appeared before the beginning of his mission. And indications of the thousands of his miracles, like the splitting of the moon. Now he's talking about some proofs of his prophethood after he started his mission. And then he says justice of Sharia, justice that he brought with his Sharia. This is also proof of his prophethood. And then he says, so too in his personality as well.
So you're referring to the prophet, not the prophet himself.
He says proof of divine unity, luminous proof of divine unity. So prophet or prophethood was a luminous proof of divine unity.
So then you think that like that refers to the, that in quotation mark refers to the prophethood or the messengerhood of Muhammad.
Yes, like in the first reading, that's what I understand from all these historical references and so on. So the way I understand is now, I guess is if we take it again, as we discussed last week, if we take messengership or prophethood as something, a live entity that we can still interact, I guess he's somehow referring to our state before we meet with the message, and then our state after we meet with the message, the way we live the message when he says the justice of Sharia, when we try to apply this message in our lives, how he fits with our need for justice. And then maybe the personalities that we see in people who convey the message to us, or our personality as it transforms as we interact with the message that he brought. So all these, like before him as a institution or as a tree, as he was describing in the first Droplet, our past, our state, our own history, before we meet with this person or the tree, our present, the miracles that we experience in our life, the justice that we experience in our life as we try to apply the message, or as we try to follow the prophet. And again, it could be the personalities that we face in this tree, or again, the transformation that we experience in our own personality as we interact with prophet. These all are the proofs that we can confirm ourselves. These are the proof of, or affirmation of his being the proof of divine unity. This is what I understand from the second Droplet.
Can you elaborate more on what you mean by we transform ourselves when we interact with the prophet? How do we interact with the prophet? Or how can we interact with the prophet?
So if he doesn't mind, I would like to give this question to Yusuf, since he's, as far as I experience myself, he's better.
No, not better
in that sense.
So I was going to ask something else. So before going any deeper, just the question is, what does the author trying to do with those points? What's the point of making all those explanations? So because initially he started with saying that there are three proofs. One is universe, the second one is Quran, the third one is the messenger. But for example, when he starts talking about universe, which we know with all other, majority of his writings are reading the signs of the creator from universe, he's not trying to justify truthfulness of the universe, because the universe is out there. But now when it comes to the messenger, we didn't touch anything about the scripture, but for the messenger, he starts with saying we must become acquainted with him and then must listen to him. So this is an articulate, a speaking proof, the messenger. But first, I need to establish some sort of a trust between me and him. Then I will start listening to what he says. So this is what we are doing from beginning till the end of this text. So in the last week, he was saying that one of the proofs of his trustworthiness, first of all, he started saying that I'm not taking him as a single person for 60 years of life, but he is representative of a live message or live tradition or live institution.
I guess tradition.
Like it has a root in the past and it has fruits in the future. So this is what he established in the first one, saying that as you see this live tree, then even if you do not see the trunk of the tree, but you see the fruit of the tree, still you can deduce something about the quality of the tree. So if, for example, if they say that somebody brings you an orange, and you say that the quality, if the orange is good, you say that all the fruits in that tree would be good because they are coming from the same root. If the fruit is fresh, you say that the tree is still alive. So the fruit itself tells a lot about the quality of the tree. So this was one of the proofs that he made. And now in here, he is again providing some proofs about trustworthiness or worthiness to listen of the messenger. He is worthy to be listened to. And this is why he was giving all those examples. I just wanted to, and certainly for that, we both need historical proofs, because as we are talking about a tree which has two wings. One is in the past, one is in the future. And also we need to have proofs from present time as well. So for the past, he gave the proofs in here in terms of like the Torah and Bible and also the soothsayer, whatever. So then also again in terms of past, he started giving some examples from his personality. But also all these has applicable or observable truths in present time as well. Like when he was saying that justice of Sharia, which is observable to us today, whatever is being established was established by him, and still we are observing that it is really the giving us the measure of what is right, what is wrong, much better than any other systems out there available. Plus, the point that what I understand from what you were saying. So, as I become a student of him, if my personality is changing, if I'm becoming a better person than what I used to be, then this is a first-hand proof from myself, from within myself, which says that this man is really a good teacher. It is like you are attending a class. Previously, you took classes from several different professors. Now you started taking a class from that new professor, and you feel like you are really learning something. Then you say that, yeah, this professor is awesome, man, because previously I tried several other professors, I learned nothing. And with this person, look how much I changed, how much I improved. So this is what I understood from when you were saying in my own personal life, as I interact with him, I am improving, meaning that he is quality. He is a high quality person. This is why my quality is improving.
Can I ask a question? This is not really for challenging anybody, or I'm not playing the devil's advocate here. This is a genuine question. So like you guys know me for some time. Like I don't think you can really think that, like say that like I am a liar or I'm not a very trustworthy person. As far as I know you, I don't think you have come to that kind of conclusion, because I don't think I have done anything that would bring you to that conclusion, right? So like you have already like have some sort of like real experience with me in terms of my words and also my actions. so it's more something more powerful. Keep that in mind. Like, so knowing that, and also like one day I come to the discussion, show up and saying that like, you know what, on the way, actually there is a psychic, there is a soothsayer. When I drive by, I see it every day. I stopped by that lady or man, I don't know, whatever it is. And he or she told me that I am the appointed one, and there will be a revelation that I received from the Creator, and I am the messenger, and I am appointed to warn the people. What would be your sincere reaction to this situation?
Astaghfirullah. I would say, don't stop at soothsayers.
So like, then what makes us to think that like that's a proof when it comes to Prophet himself? Like probably you would say like this guy is losing, he's insane, and like he probably needs to see him like not a psychic, but a psychiatrist.
I guess if you think
So like when that's our like initial reaction to a situation like that here and now. When it comes to the like such a substantial matter, why should it be a proof for me to believe in that he's the prophet, and let alone it's not happening here and now, like where I can truly experience it happened 1400 years ago. So like in that sense, I have no access to it. I just have the narrations from mouth to mouth that was recorded years later, or maybe like decades or years later by the historians. Like, I honestly don't see like this as a proof for his prophethood if we are to understand it from like in that sense. And knowing Nursi, like, and he talks about the like Torah, like Bible, the news, and like maybe to a certain extent I can understand why he's talking about those. But like, why does he talk about soothsayers together with revelation? Is it something to do with that historical background that you gave? If it is as such, like I really don't see it like how it is relevant to me, because like that's another historical account that people narrated.
But in terms of life of messenger, let's say, the only thing we have at hand is history, with pluses and minuses, with its limitations. We have to take it from there, or we are not going to take it at all. So I would prefer filtering it out, knowing the limitations, what is available to me. Because at the end of the day, still we are talking about a historical figure as well. And a real person lived really 14 centuries ago. And also, not all proofs are equally powerful. This is why I guess he is counting 14 different droplets. Otherwise, he would say, just this is possible, right? There has to be a messenger. So take it. I mean, because this is a logical conclusion, and you can arrive to this logical conclusion right now. But we are talking about a real person that lived, and I am actually in need of a real person, human, practicing something. And since this happens 15 centuries ago, I have no other option but benefit from historical accounts, considering their limitations. Then if such a narration comes to me, then I say, what am I going to do with that? Shall I totally discard it? Or how can I make use of that? Now this becomes a legitimate question. And even when we are evaluating the things in history, we should consider the limitations of narrations, okay, but also we should try to evaluate the history within history, not within the definitions of today. Because to me, when we say soothsayer, for example, I feel like today's scientists are the soothsayers of today, sort of. Because they rely, the basics are based on, basics of their knowledge are based on experiment. But when it comes to interpretation, science is making very atheistic claims. So this is really where I see as jinns really mixing up the truth. But the difference is, today, for example, if you were to claim to be a messenger, scientists would never admit what you were saying because you are on the opposite sides with today's soothsayers. Today's soothsayers are materialists. They have no claim about the unseen. Their claim is all about the seen. But soothsayers were making claims about the unseen, so their knowledge were based on the unseen, which again, this is not, I mean, don't take my words for that, but just assumption for me. I should really study and say. But since nobody is speaking, I'm speaking. So soothsayers must have some sort of a knowledge of previous scriptures and those stuff. And this is what they say, for example, about, what was the uncle of Khadija? Waraka. So he was a soothsayer, but he was a scholar of Bible as well. So they know about the previous scriptures as well. So they have knowledges of the truth, but also now they are mixing up some lies together. But they can agree upon the truth, whatever they're coming from. And their claim is about someone that is to come from unseen, because they are representing the people that you news from the unseen. So a real person who is really getting message from the unseen is going to be their rival, or they're at the same avenue. This is why they can really, whatever they say about him is going to have some sort of a value. It's not valueless as today some soothsayer coming and telling you that you are receiving messages from, because now I have a reference point with which I can say that this soothsayer is really telling total lies. I have a reference point to say that.
I guess, like, I understand where you're coming from. Like, I'm just gonna speak from my own, like, let's say, feelings. I'm just not comfortable with this idea. Soothsayers, the people, for the time, the people who are able to bring news or, like, give news from the unseen. So, if that means that those are the people who can actually, in a way, predict the future, because it seems like referring to the Torah and the Bible and all the soothsayers, that's, like, at least on the surface level, that's how I understand this text, that before the prophet came, those, like, let's say, proofs, different proofs, have the indication that he will be the prophet, right? So, how can, like, existentially speaking, how can a soothsayer bring news from the future that has not been created yet?
So
it's very problematic to me.
Yeah, practically speaking, I'm not saying that they will be receiving messages from future, but they already have knowledge that was accumulated over ages.
That is the, like, I think that's why, like, then we need to really understand what he means by the soothsayers, because it is, like, more clear in the witnessing, testimony, witnessing. There is an, like, they witness something.
Mm-hmm.
So it is their, like, experiential, like, conclusion, like, about something. So, like, then
let me ask you this way. The papas, priests of Christian priests were also testifying that there's going to come someone. Or the famous Bahira, the priest, when he saw the child Muhammad, he said that you are going to be the messenger, so go back. So based on what did he testify? What he has seen in his scripture.
The indications, like, or the descriptions that was supposedly, like, that was in Bible or Torah.
Yes. So I think, it's my, well, assumption, or this is how I conclude, soothsayers were such people. They were collecting information from here and there, which is propagated over ages to them, with which they are saying that, okay, this is the man that was being mentioned. And so they are not following a certain, let's say, religion or a thing, but they come up, they're just, the way, they're a collection of knowledge. This is how I am imagining, or how I'm thinking about that. They do not follow a certain tradition to say that this is Jewish or this is Christian.
So then, like, soothsayers are not the same as like what we understand from psychic today. So they are the scholars of the time. That's how it should be understood in this context.
Yes, but they are mixing truth, because a scholar shouldn't mix truth with falsehood, but they are making a life out of that. So they were mixing lies into their truth, like the magicians of Moses, the magicians of Pharaoh at the time of Musa alayhi salam. So they had knowledge, those magicians had knowledge, which is a superior knowledge than common people. But they were making their life out of that. Let's say, today is chemistry. So if you include fire to, what's it, gunpowder, so it explodes. Let's say you're speaking to a group of people which have never seen that. But this is knowledge for you. It's not magical. You know that when you bring fire next to gunpowder, it explodes. But you're hiding this truth from people. But then you are saying to them, I'm going to see what I'm going to do. I have superpowers. And you do it, and people really think that you have superpowers. So you are not a scholar, really. You are like a con artist, because you are twisting the truth, but still you're knowledgeable than average people. But you are abusing your knowledge, or using your knowledge for not for the good of people, but for your personal gain. So this is what I understand from the soothsayer. They have some sort of knowledge, but they are making use of knowledge for their own good. So, but today's soothsayer, I mean, this maybe because knowledge is folklore today.
Knowledge is?
Folklore. Everybody has knowledge. And most likely, a soothsayer is going to have lesser of a knowledge than an average people in this society. But they're making use of different emotions, whatever. This is a totally different story.
Mohammed Said wants to say something. If you're done, we can wait, otherwise. Mohammed Said, please go ahead.
Yes, brother. Thanks for focusing on the details of this text. About these, what I was also thinking while Osman and Yusuf and also everybody else was talking about this text and what is it really saying, and why it is using such things that are a little bit kind of confusing for me. And I was thinking, like, an example, let's say 100 years from now, I happen to find thousands of fortune cookies that they give restaurants, and then I started reading the notes in them, let's say, and then I find that majority of these notes are talking about an expectation of goodness and happiness and such. I think I can say that all these people who lived 100 years ago in this area were in need of kind of happiness, because that's what they expect, that's what they talk about. I think the author uses he talks about before the prophet started his mission, before this person started his mission, there were people talking about an expected prophet or messenger who means they were in need of such thing that they were talking about. That's how we are made, right? We definitely, the things that we talk about are the things that we need, and in that case, maybe he's using, it makes sense to me to understand it in this way, that he is using the those historical accounts in the sense that it resembles the kind of the need of the people in that age. They show their need by saying that we are expecting someone or something. It means they are in need of such a person or such a personality. Just want to share this point with you.
Jazakallah khair. That was really nice point.
Yeah, just one last comment. Like, I think I understand, like, there must be some sort of context for the society back at the time. What really puzzles me the most, like, Nursi has a claim that he speaks for the future. Like, he says, like, he speaks for the generation that will come 50, 60, 100 years later, right? For this, specifically for the second droplet, like, the way that it is worded, like, I just don't get the feeling that it really speaks to me. It must be more, how should I say, more relevant in a way, and also like a little bit more clear to what he's trying to say, like what's his message in there. So it doesn't sound like it speaks to the generation that will come 50, 60 years from now.
So once you ask that and you start discussing, the way I felt like the text was speaking, even if I'm not aware of all this historical background, even if I cannot make such elegant connections between soothsayers and today's certain professions, I guess when I look at the text, it gives me an impression that whatever I'm talking about, like the prophethood, was not just out of sudden. So
it's a process.
It's a process, yes. And its affirmation as well was a process. It started before him, and because we're talking about before him, actually it has to be about soothsayers, or it has to be about news about the future. You see what I mean? Because we're talking about like a period where he's not a prophet yet. So how I take as news from unseen or news from soothsayer, testimony of soothsayers, as what is before him was testifying what he would bring or his coming. So there were all these evidences that you can follow before you encounter with the prophet, or before you encounter with the message. So it's not just out of sudden that you meet with someone and you impress you. No, he says you expect him before even you met with him. There were some news telling you that he would come. Because as Muhammad Said was also saying, because you were in need of such person, you were expecting someone, or you were looking for someone, and then such testimonies or news from unseen becomes a, let's say, not proof, but the indications that you can follow. It's giving you support for your search. You are in need of such a person, you're waiting for such a person, and you're hearing all these news that he will come. And then you meet with this person, you meet with the personality, and then the Sharia it brings, and it completes the circle. So I guess talking about the past, and especially scenes or the news from unseen, it's important, I assume, I believe. It's not only about, the psychics or whatever. It's about the news you hear or you get or you expect, you are looking for, even before meeting your prophet.
That should it be understood as like when the luminous proof of divine unity, that is the whole point, right? Like that is the main message of all the religions. There is no God but God. And that is the foundation or the essence of the messengership for any messenger. In this case, does first part refer to the messengerhood, or again the way, the method, like the institution that actually, how should I say, the channel that goes back to the creator of the universe, that he is the one who actually spoke to the people on earth, and he's still speaking to the people on earth. And it more like actually refers to that open, I don't know the right word to describe it, channel, communication channel, that actually there is such a phenomenon in this universe that there is Torah, Bible, and there are people that are like, let's say, like if you take the Sudseis as the people of like scholars, where they have the knowledge, and also the people like them like witnessing and like testifying the truthfulness of something. So all those actually showing the or indication of the fact that there is this like channel of communication with the maker of this universe, which refers to the messengership. And like those are the, let's say, the proofs for that aspect of the event. And as a result of that, like the second part, when he talks about so too in his person, he talks about his more like character and personality and like trustworthiness, like seriousness about like what kind of message he came up with. So I feel like the first part refers to more like his mission, where he can actually communicate with the creator, and second part more refers to his person in terms of his character, to convince the reader that, hey, listen, like there is such a phenomenon actually that takes place in the universe already, and this is another guy came up with that claim, and that guy has such and such like beautiful qualities that has been narrated. So if there is such a phenomenon, and if there is such person with such qualities, then that person cannot be liar. He must be the messenger. Like, I guess if I like read it that way, then like it kind of makes sense to me. Like, but otherwise, like I feel like I'm in a Harry Potter tale.
I really like your starting from the luminous proof of divine unity, because I think, like in the light of what you said, so at the end it's all about the divine unity. Okay? And he's saying the prophet is a proof of this divine unity. Then the question, I guess, when someone is given us as a prophet, let's say, can he really be a proof of divine unity? That is trying to show that, yes, he is really proof of divine unity, and these are a kind of affirmation of that. And again, what I understand from this, what happened before him and so on, as you were saying, Harry Potter-like tales, I think they're actually really important. Why? Because it means when he came as a messenger, people were not surprised. He fit to the context. That's what I understand. Like, he himself and the message he brought fitted. Should you say fit or fitted?
Fits.
Fit. The past tense, right? Okay.
Fits the context.
I get the old thing. If I don't know if this is like past tense, I just use the whatever the word I know.
Okay. At that time, for them, he fit past tense. He fit the context. Therefore, he's saying that if you receive such a news, or if you receive such a message, or if you encounter with a person, right? She should also fit your past, your context you are in. So for soothsayers or the bringer of the news from the unseen, it was not surprise for them. Again, because it fit the context, the environment. And then he's living, his personality fitted people's expectations. And not only expectations, but also it took them and transformed into the point that they were pleased. So I guess this is important. Like, it means it's not only about, your first impression of the person or whatever. It's about your expectations. It's about what you were waiting for. So in that context, I really think that talking about the soothsayers or the previous scriptures and anyway, all these things, I really think it makes sense. I'm not trying to, justify the text.
And when Yusuf narrated the story that like soothsayers were not able to bring news anymore after the Quran is revealed, I take it as Quran is the speech of the creator of all the worlds, like meaning that it is all encompassing. So once there is like all-encompassing knowledge, how can you really speak of anything else? Like all-encompassing knowledge, I guess the way that I understand it, by definition, it nullifies nullifies everything else. So which means in terms of the truth, whatever the revelation or the scriptures, the message, the truth that it talks about is like the sun versus whatever the knowledge soothsayers that had at the time. So once the sun comes out, what is the point of having the light, kind of stuff.
That's right. But when Musa is talking about those soothsayers in 19th letter, where he counts the miracles of Muhammad ﷺ, there he opens up a a side tracks, very small. He says, sort of a footnote, but he opens up a small paragraph. He says that at that age, soothsayers were cut off after the Wahy. But we are hearing that, he says, in today's age, some soothsayers again started to show up. If I don't take it literally, and take, for example, scientists as soothsayers of today, they are really taking place of Wahy again. Wahy is taking place of Wahy. Their explanations are shading, putting a shadow over the Wahy. Because even in some other places, Nursi says that in today's age, it is really like the type of fetret. Like the fetret is the time in between two prophets when the message is really being shadowed, being hidden. So in today's age, scientific explanation or the explanation of scientists are really covering up the explanation of Wahy. So today's soothsayers are really starting to take over. So still the revelation is there, but it is being like eclipsed. So this is why at the time when revelation came, it really shone. It was shining. The truth was so obviously shining that the soothsayers didn't have anything to say. But today, since the revelation is being covered up, then soothsayers are again coming to the surface. So it's not that once Wahi is there, then there's no way to say yes. If Wahi was really there, this would be the case. But unfortunately today, Wahi is being shadowed, covered up.
Sure. I'm not laughing.
Any comments? Any other questions?
I really like the analogy of the tree bearing fruits and obviously the roots connecting back to the way Nursi is using it, the previous prophet. And so I was thinking, obviously if somebody introduces me the fruit from the tree, or if I stumble upon the fruit, definitely that's how I'll get to know about the tree, right? So in the analogy, I believe he's referring to the tree as Muhammad's peace and blessings be upon him, right? And so the fruits are anybody who's following the legacy, like luminous people or saints and so on. So through those fruits, I get to introduced to the tree. And that's like the real deal, right? You want to be with the tree. And okay, so that's helping me, I don't want to get lost in historicizing the tree either. What I mean is, I know in the past we said the messenger is live right now, right? And right, so, okay, so I'm gonna throw out another question as well. So Revelation, that's it. He's the only one thus far we know, as far as the up-to-date person that received revelation, and nobody else. We can't predict anything. If that's as far as we know. He's the most up-to-date person with revelation, and so we cannot even make any prediction that maybe there may be another tree. No, that won't make sense. So we're just concerned with the fruits of the tree. I don't know, am I getting lost in the analogy? Well, let me think more on this.
Well, I guess, so two things. Either, because practically there happen to be people after prophets claiming to be prophets, which came up with either cover stories saying that, yeah, he was the last Rasul, but after Rasul, Quran just says, Khataman Nabiyyin, Quran says, so he was the last Nabi, but there's going to become some Rasuls, whatever. People even come up with some cover stories afterwards. So they are there. Out there, there are such options available. And I guess it's a duty on us, if we encounter such people, to see if it makes sense or not. And if we do not encounter such people, I'm going to ask the question, is the person that I encountered last was Muhammad ﷺ, is he really being enough for me? If not, yeah, then I will look for other options. But in order to be able to say that, then I cannot evaluate prophet independent of his message. So I need to evaluate them both, which means I need to look for another prophet if prophet plus Quran is going to start becoming insufficient for me. Because in the scripture saying that this is the last message or this is the completed message, so then I will somehow arrive to some conclusion that this message is maybe corrupted or this and that. I need to have reason to seek for another one. But if the message seems to be satisfactory for me and consistent within itself, then my only option seems to be looking for fruits of the tree, which is not messenger per se as receiving direct revelation, but instead interpreters of this revelation.
And I guess another thing, like these kind of phrases, like what was the original? Khatam
Khatam
al-Nabiyyin. I guess they're always like any other verses. They will always be open to interpretations. So through the tradition, we take it as the last of the prophets, or maybe through some hadith, we also take it as the last of the prophets. So, and when we look at, for instance, what is written in Torah and Bible, or all these indications as referred by Nursi as well. So from our perspective, with our, I'm speaking just traditionally. From a Muslim perspective, let's say, these indications are clearly referring to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but for them, it does not. There's no even correlation, or there is no even similarity for them. Some even says it's just the opposite. What I'm trying to say, I guess, it really doesn't matter that much, like how you take it. As long as Yusuf was saying, like, as long as you are pleased with it, or you are satisfied with it, and you have a solid background or a solid base that you can act on, I guess that's what matters. Like, whether he's really the last prophet, just as I'm talking about, as just like a movie scenario. Because the way we approach these topics, or most of the time, the reasons we ask such questions, we are most concerned about like the person. Whether there is a person with the superpowers, whether there's a person who's receiving news, or what, it really doesn't matter at the end. Like, what matters is the message and personality and the Sharia that you interact with. As Yusuf was saying, is it satisfactory for you or not? Do you have any reason for you to seek for someone else or not? Or when you face with the message of the Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or when you read about his personality, or when you apply his Sharia, do you have any reason to take this Khatam al-Nabi as other than being the last of the prophet or not? I guess that matters. At the end, you will be doing the interpretation. There is no escape from it. You will rely on all the scholars, you will rely on all these traditions, but you will be the one who choosing the interpretation. So I guess the real question is, do you really, I'm not asking you, Faria, like as a person, but in general, do we have any reason for not taking this phrase as the last prophet or not? Or are we just, interested in some fun stories or exciting, supernatural stories or not? I guess that's the real question.
Can I?
You know what? To me, what I understand is if the message makes sense, right? So the message was brought by a person. So I say, hey, thank you very much to the person who brings the message. So that's as far as I'm concerned, as long as the message is making sense. So I appreciate the one who's presenting the message. And at the same time, I was thinking of this analogy. So let's say if a professor presents me with a book, and obviously I say, oh yeah, this is an interesting book. okay, I'm reading the book and I'm communicating with the author of the book. But then at the end of the day, I would also say my regards or send out appreciation to the professor. But that's just like a very vivid live analogy right now. So I guess similarly, I should just be concerned with, yeah, just being cognizant that when I'm interacting with the author of the universe, then how did I got introduced to the author is through this person. Yeah, so yeah, that's how I understand it and take it as thus far. Does anyone else have any comments or want to add something?
Yeah, I have a comment. As we said last week, like the way that I understand like what it means for the prophet to be the Khatamul Anbiya, he came with a message that is so comprehensive that God spoke to him as the Lord of all the worlds, meaning that like the speech is so comprehensive that it must have something to do with his message. So if he, as he claims, if he came up like with a message that is so comprehensive that addresses all the human questions, let's say, about this life, existence, the meaning of life, past and the future, then why would you really look for anyone else? But I think the question that we should be asking ourselves, what are our main concerns and questions? And do I really find any kind of answer for those questions in the message that he brought? If, like, whatever the message you brought, like, if it doesn't answer your questions and if it doesn't make sense to you, then he's not your prophet anyway. Like, he's not your messenger. But if he addresses all of the questions that you have, then why would you really look for someone else?
And I guess very relevant to what you said, should you even start trying this message as a guidance for yourself or not? Because if the message, the claim of the message is, oh, this message is good for people who lived 1,000 years ago, and you wouldn't even take it as answers to your questions. So I guess such a phrase, the last of the prophet, also comes with a claim that you can use this message for yourself as well.
Yeah, it is like when I say it is an all-encompassing message, it refers to the past and the future. It refers to all the ages, and it refers to like different locations like on Earth. So like the message should be so universal or so comprehensive that every single person on Earth should be able to relate to it. But as far as I am concerned, no matter where I am or what age I am, I should be able to really understand it, and like it should answer like my questions, and also I should be convinced in my heart that yes, this message is true for me. I can confirm it. So like if I have that kind of like comprehensive like interaction with it, then looking for another messenger, let's say, would be illogical. It's just by definition, like just logically doesn't make sense anyway.
It means just you are after some excitement, let's say. Like people looking for the clues in historical text, making connections to find a treasure or something.
Yeah, like I guess like then intention comes into play, and like what's your really like ultimate goal and purpose and intention? Like, are you looking for the truth or answers for your own problems, or you are like trying different things and like it's some sort of intellectual activity for you?
Deciphering the code of Da Vinci.
Sort of.
Yeah. This just to a last remark, prophet is a specific case. So we should keep that in mind. A person claiming to be a prophet is a big deal. So if I were to born in a society in which people were believing in another person who claims to be the prophet after Muhammad, then what would I do? This might be a relevant question. Well, maybe for none of us this applies, but if this was the case, then I would go and search if this person really fits. For example, what Mursi does in here is, he is born into a society in which Muhammad is shown as the messenger, and he is checking if it makes sense or not, if this person is really fitting the criteria of being a messenger. If I was to born in a different society, and if they introduced me another person as a prophet that came after Muhammad, I will apply the same procedure and see if it applies to him, if this person is passing through those tests. And now that I'm not born into that society, and in my society this person is being presented, then what we told is being our case. Then I need to apply the criteria to this person, and then, yeah, apparently he's fitting those criteria. But then comes the next question, is he being not enough for me? If he is, then my search finishes there. If not, then go and search for further.
And I guess that's the reason he's talking about all these affirmations before him, with him, after him. So, as you were saying, like, this is a recipe or methodology to know your prophet. Check his past, his himself, and then what is left after him.
Because the reason that I'm expanding this a little bit, maybe it might sound irrelevant to some friends, but I heard some people saying that we are in need of a messenger to guide us to the truth. This is the description of messenger. And in this age, we need such a person more than anyone else, more than any other ages. So shouldn't a messenger be here in this age? And this argument was being presented in order to support the prophethood claim of a person which passed away recently. So it sounds like a reasonable argument saying that, yeah, definitely we need a messenger. So then, and if I see a person who says that I'm the messenger, or I'm this new one that you were expecting, then shall I follow this person or not? I guess this is why Mursi is talking about this live tree, saying that you benefit from this tree, and then this is how, this is why he's not limiting prophet and prophethood as a person that lived 15 centuries ago. So in this explanation, still it makes sense that, yeah, you have access to this live tree, to the here and now. He's just expanding the definition without introducing new messengers, like in the form of a prophet, but like scholars are students of those messengers.
Any other comments from our side or questions? So we have 12 minutes. I'm leaving Mike to Feria back.
Yeah, I was pondering over that life tree analogy again. I mean, it's amazing. It's a life tree bearing fruits. I mean, as long as one is taking advantages of the fruit and knows that, and it's then definitely you're connected to the tree as well. And obviously fruits come and go. The tree keeps bearing fruit, right? That's the whole idea of the analogy. So it's a live message. And yeah, you benefit from all the fruits available, but know the source, right? The tree. Right, okay. Yeah, this was great, actually. Does anybody else have any comments or question or something they want to add?
If we are not going to read a new part, just I would like to add another last comment.
We have 10 minutes, so probably we should
Maybe
finish.
last
So,
comment like last time.
Yes. Last to the last.
Hatem will comment.
So, the example that Osman Ali was saying. So, when we are talking about messenger, just I would like to open it up for discussion. We need to go back to history as well. So there is, because it's being said that, okay, those hadith literature is recorded 100, 200 years later, then we start questioning its reliability.
That's not what I think.
Historians, whatever.
No, I said it's, at the end it's a narration, and the narrations, the oral narrations have been recorded like, many years later. So that automatically opens up the question in mind, like how reliable it is. But that doesn't mean that, like I am saying that the hadith is questionable, that we shouldn't like refer to it as a source.
Right.
You're not saying this.
I am not saying this.
Yeah,
But at the same time, let's be honest that like it is a legitimate question to like have it that like if like let's say from year to year, if I say to Abdurrahman and all the way circling around the room, and when it comes to Yusuf, there will be some sort of changes to the statement. I am sure everybody played this like in elementary school or high school. And what kind of like funny like words like you guys end up with. So this is human reality. Like let's just like be like honest with ourselves first. Like, but that doesn't mean that like we have to bury the like hadith and like the narrations from the prophet.
So yeah, just I wanted to clarify that point, that it is inevitable for me not to refer to history when I'm talking about him, but I need to consider the historical records within their limitation. But this shouldn't mean that I am not going to benefit or refer to them at all. Every proof has their own level of quality and certainty, yet if I am trying to make most out of it, I will pay its due, like whatever level of study it requires, I'm going to put effort in there so that I'm going to extract whatever I can extract out of them. But since there's this trend, not saying that you're doing that, but now I am realizing lately, if we do not differentiate what we mean, what we do not mean, it's been open to many misunderstandings. And lately I'm realizing those misunderstandings among people a lot that I am having discussion with. Because lately I needed to correct the misunderstandings that I myself caused. And one of such misunderstanding I realized within this last week, which we corrected on Tuesday, I guess, and with Abdurrahman. So after correcting the misunderstanding, he said that, okay, now we completed the circle. Because this was the time, for the last 2 weeks, for example, I was realizing that I have been causing a misunderstanding in terms of how to interpret Quran, whatever. So this is why for this sort of things, I guess we need to be extra careful to say what we mean and what we do not mean by that. Because if we do not draw the line to the what we do not mean, and it's being open-ended, it might be understood as saying that this is what you say boils down to. Not saying that this is what you meant, but it is being understood.
There will always, I see what you're saying, not defending myself, but like there will always like things missed in the communication. There is no such thing that like Birkan says something and I get like whatever he says as it is, I get that meaning 100%. Either there is a misunderstanding or there is a lack of understanding, like, or there is almost like 90% of understanding, but there is no 100% understanding. So it is just like, it is expected from not just the speaker, also from the listener, that if there is something questionable or something is not clear, raise the question and clarify the point for himself instead of assuming stuff. because it would be very unjust to put the like verse in the mouth of the speaker in a way that that's not what he meant. That's just like in terms of like the interaction, like in daily life and also in the discussions. Like very concrete example, like yesterday I received an email from my boss, like telling me that I need to do something, and it's one of the basic tasks that I am supposed to do, and I am doing it on daily basis. But because of the email that he forwarded from someone else, that is customer service, that was like I took that for granted, that the email comes from customer service, so the task must be related to the customer service, so it is not my duty to do it. And I, as a knee-jerk reaction, I responded back to the email saying that this is not my task and I don't even know how to do it. And later on, I spoke with the customer service lady and I asked her, like, you sent such and such email and my boss forwarded it to me, but why are you even sending to me? Because it's not my task. Then she said, like, she clarified the point and said that, no, it's not related to customer service. Actually, it is about the receiving, cutting short, like corner short. So I went back to the email and I read the email again, and actually it was completely like related to my area. It had nothing to do with the customer service. It was just my prejudice or pre-assumption that led me to the wrong understanding of the message. And like as a result, I replied back like wrong, and I fooled myself in a way that like I told him that like I'm not going to do one of major tests. So like what I'm trying to say is that like this is how this life works. This is the way communication works. If you are listening to someone with some sort of prejudice or some sort of presupposition, assumptions, it is inevitable to misunderstand the person, and it's going to lead you to like a completely different conclusion that the speaker provided than me. So that's just like for the daily interactions. But as far as the messengerhood goes, let me just clarify one thing. I absolutely do not mean to minimize the value of the practices of the Prophet or the hadith of the Prophet. But at the same time, it just really doesn't quite make sense to me to understand the Prophet or the messengerhood in the context of like an historical, in the context of history, because messengership should have something to do with me here and now, and it must have something to do with understanding the existence itself, the universe itself, and the life itself, and the meaning of the life itself. So it should be messengership should be such an like important part of the equation that without messengership or without prophethood and without prophet himself, I should not be able to really solve the riddle of this creation. If the messengership is not understood within that context, as far as I am concerned, it is historicized, and history, like in many cases, doesn't quite make sense to me because of the age and the geography and all that sort of stuff.
So we have 1 minute, so I guess it has to be me speaking lastly. So what I understand from your discussion is like what kind of value we give to a real person of the Prophet. Like, yes, there's a messengership aspect of it, but there's also one real person which within a historical context. There's a tradition which narrates us, this person and his actions and so on. And my take, I'm not saying that this is what you discussed, but what it reminded me is, I guess my relationship with religion or my relationship with searching the truth, let's say, search for the truth. At least the way I see it, it should be different than like these books telling me how to become a better person, like 10 steps of success, or 10 steps of being such and such. Yes, there is one aspect of it, search for truth, that I can do it from from the place I'm sitting. Like I just sit and think about it. And I can reach a certain point. I can then read the scholars and so on. Right? What I see from here, he says there is another aspect as well, which looks at the past. You should also be aware of it. You should also, let's say, study it. Maybe from different aspect, as you were saying, from the aspect of finding solution to your existential problems, but still do not deny it. Just like I don't deny, for instance, when I do a research, I do not deny what is done before me. How these people studied the topic, what they wrote, right? I take it serious and I study the history of my problem. Just like the same way, I guess I should be open, or I should accept the fact that I'm not the only one having these existential worries.
My point is, if you do not start with your existential worries, then there will be no need to look for another one.
Yeah. No. Yes, the starting point is your problems, your needs. Yeah.
If one can come to the conclusion that's why I think he starts with the. There are three great universal things which make known as to the sustainer of like art: universe, speech, and the prophet. So like he talks about something very substantial. So like to me, he says that you need to understand the prophethood within that context. I am just setting that up like, right from the get-go. Whatever you are going to read for the rest of the text must be within this context. So if you don't have the understanding that there is no way without the let's say speech message and without the person who received the message, there is no way that I can really make sense of this universe without those two. Can you really the question is, do you really feel that way? Can you really come to that conclusion that here and now, in order for you to understand this existence, you need to understand the need of the messengership itself. If one doesn't start from there or is not aware of that, everything else is going to be pretty much like the way that I feel. It's going to be pretty much just another Harry Potter story.
Yes, that's true. He's also saying...
But that doesn't mean that you need to negate the fact that there is another individual went through the struggle that you went through, and as a result of it, received the message that explained the riddle of this creation. Then you can say that, yeah, I can confirm that it must be so. Otherwise, I don't really know how you can relate to him, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to take this to a different direction, but I just don't know how you can relate to him.
I guess the question do you, not you, but in general, do you really want to connect with him or not? Because the reason I'm saying most of the time we find ourselves, when I look at myself for instance, we pretend as if the creation is just enough for me as a proof of divine unity. But he says, no, there are three important proofs. Creation, yes, but also messenger and also scripture. Do not deny these three. Do not think just, yes, I can look at the trees and make sense of it and find the solution of my problems. He says, no, there's also messengership, there's also scripture. If you can connect with the messenger through the hadith books, yes, make the connection. If you make the connection through the messenger, with the writings of the Nursi, make the connection. But try to make the connection.
If you don't make the connection, or if you don't take him as the prophethood, Quran would be another storybook. So there is no way, without the messenger, there is no way even to, let's say, like, that's why I think you are like emphasizing that or pointing out the fact that like there is this tendency that people say that we don't need the prophet, we have the Quran so we can understand it. If you cannot relate yourself with the messengership in a way that like you really need someone to receive the message and answer the like the questions like that, or human questions that he had, and Quran is the answer to that, like then why would you even take Quran as a source of like guidance? How, like without the messenger, without the prophet, how can one like take the Quran as a guidance?
So I guess what is happening in there is nobody is denying prophet, but just lowering the value. He was a postman, brought the message, and he's a good guy. He lived and his job is done. But the question is, who is prophet? This is why Nursi in here is really describing us what I should understand from prophet.
The role of the prophet.
Yeah, because am I learning how to read the Quran from prophet and the tradition of prophethood, or I am interpreting Quran with my today's mindset of materialist mindset. Because I am trained in a materialist education, and this is how I think. It's really hard for me not to think in terms of matter. And now I am saying that my intellect is enough for me to make sense of the scripture. And I'm not denying Muhammad was the messenger. Yeah, he was a good man. He got the message and he handed over to somebody else and his job is done. So in this case, it's also sounding fine in terms of saying that, yeah, I am in good terms with the prophet. But from whom am I going to learn how to interpret Quran? This is why this second part of the tree is important. After the messenger, still this tradition is going on in terms of people carry over centuries the methodology of how to interpret Wahi from different perspectives. They have all different colors, all different shades. This is why I guess Nursi is saying that it's the branches and the fruits of the tree. So it goes all different ways. And I am just, if I'm very much interested in eating more fruit, then go through all the branches of the tree. But this is how we are going to get to the trunk of the tree without turning around the tree and collecting all different foods. There's no other way for me. So this is why this tendency out there to say that scripture is here and I'm going to interpret it within my own terms, very good. I need to interpret verses here and now, very good and very true. But still the question is, how am I going to do that? How am I going to interpret the verses? What is going to be my methodology for interpreting those verses? From whom am I going to learn how to interpret them? وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين الفاتحة